I have a new microphone. I am aware that this thing looks fairly silly. And honestly, I can't say I care. I mean, it's not like I wear this as a fashion statement, and again, it's functional, so I don't really care. Make fun away. Anyway, the topic of this video is investing in yourself. I did a video on investing in yourself 1 year ago, and the theme of that video pretty much was, don't bitch about what other people have if you don't want to actually put in the time, the money, the work, the effort to invest in yourself to attempt to achieve what they have achieved. I was playing a very small violin for all the people who will complain that customers will go elsewhere just because we don't have something in stock when you don't want to spend the $38 to stock that part. And I went on to give examples. So the topic of that video, the theme of it and the lesson of it was to invest in yourself. But I didn't really tell you how. In this video, I want to get into the how. How should you invest in yourself? What should you look for? What is valuable? And I want to go over some key points, and I'm going to try to do that through examples. I'm going to explain how I've looked for value. This is a core part of my business mindset, and I use this thought process with almost everything I do with my business and with other businesses that I've had in the past. So I feel like it's worth sharing. Let me give one example. I spent about $2,000 to buy a new camera, and I also spent about $1,000 on a microscope that allows me to use a camera that came with it that I can record with using HDMI, so I can record it at the exact same time as the camera and have them in sync and have it look really, really good. Now, when my coworker comes in, he's going to see that I bought one of these on eBay. My coworker deals with all of the eBay stuff. I personally, as I've said in the past, I don't like buying things off of eBay because that's how you get shit that doesn't work. But again, little odds and ends like the little button that you hit to hit the battery sensor in the MacBook, like where are you going to find the shit at eBay? And he manages all of that, and he sees all the things that I buy. Now, I know when he comes in the morning, he's probably going to look at this, and when I come in, he's going to go, you spent $2,000 on a camera, and he's a very polite and kind-hearted guy, so he's going to say it like that, whereas in his head, he's probably going to be thinking, you motherfucker, why'd you spend $2,000 on a goddamn camera? What the fuck is wrong with you? And he's not going to be wrong for thinking that. He's not going to be wrong for thinking that one bit, because he is a very practical-minded individual. He is very practical, he's very grounded, he has a lot of common sense, he is sensible, he thinks before he does things, whereas I'm the exact opposite. I simply want to, if I see a problem, I want to do whatever is necessary to solve it. It doesn't matter how ridiculous or asinine or insane the path to the solution is, I will instantly dive in and try to solve it. If you put Mount Everest between me and a problem, if I have nothing but Weha screwdrivers, I'm going to try to use those little flatheads to like help me climb the mountain when there may only be $50 on the other side of it. Whereas he is the kind of person who would go, maybe you shouldn't climb a mountain to get $50 on the other side. So this is one of the reasons that I value his input, because it kind of balances everything out. And that's what he's going to be thinking. And again, he's going to be right. I am not a videographer. I can't film a wedding. Nobody's going to pay me to film their band. I don't even know how to use half of the crap on what I just bought. There is no way for me to monetize $3,300 worth of purchases that I made this morning. There's no way for me to convert that back into money directly. I cannot take that anywhere and have people give me money for what I've just spent. And what I spent is very, very close to what I pay in rent every month for this business, which is, you know, a fair amount of money, I think. Now, I need you to see the way I see it. About a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, when I started this YouTube channel, excluding eBay, I don't count eBay because eBay, again, is very lowbrow business, low profit, and just crap. Outside of eBay, I had one person mailing a device to this business to get repaired once every 6 to 12 weeks. So once every month and a half to 3 months, we would get a mail-in. And again, this is why I think it's very, very important to look at metrics. This is why when I'm discussing business, I say you need to look at metrics and not just work based off of emotions or what you feel, because what you feel is often different from what QuickBooks or your ticketing software is going to actually tell you is going on. So back then I had, I would say, one mail-in every 6 to 12 weeks, or QuickBooks would say. And that is horseshit, that is garbage, that is crap. And then I had this idea. Again, this is an idea. let me try to promote my business through all these different ways of promotion. And one of the ideas that I had was, let me put my thoughts on the internet. Let me spread how I think. Let me just put out there my ideas, not even repair videos. Let me just start sharing my beliefs and see what happens. And this was an experiment. Since this was an experiment, I put a minimal investment into the experiment. I don't think you should spend a lot of money in the beginning to find out if something works before you know that it actually works. One of the biggest problems I see with budding businesses is they will worry about their ticketing software. They will worry about their accounting software. They'll worry about the computer workstation they use to work. They'll worry that they don't have all the right tools yet. They'll be researching whether they want Weehaw or Wera screwdrivers. They'll be researching the type of tweezers they want. They'll be researching the vendors, and I'll ask them, so how many things did you fix this week? And they'll go, in the past 2 weeks, I've fixed 3 laptops. And it's like, you don't need a ticketing system. You need Post-its. You don't need a tool set. You need a flathead screwdriver that you can jam when you need to unscrew a torque screw. Like, you don't need all this shit. You need to see if your idea works and then build on it based on what you see that you need. So I wanted to see if my idea worked. And part of my promotion, part of my advertising campaign was going to be, I'm going to share my beliefs and thoughts with the world and see what happens. So I've spent $200 or $300 on this piece of shit camcorder. And again, it's good for what it is. It is good for a $200 to $300 portable camcorder. But don't get me wrong, it is still a piece of garbage. It is still a cheap, just shitty quality, crappy build, just a complete cheap piece of shit, which is what you get for $200 or $300. Now, as time went on, I kept track of mail-ins, and I noticed I'm getting more and more and more and more of them. And I decided to start keeping track of where these were coming from. So I actually started sending up follow-up emails to every single person who mailed a machine in, and every single one of them, I mean every single one for a good 2 months said, YouTube, I found you on YouTube. I loved your video on YouTube. And they decided to use us. So I thought, this is pretty cool. Now I actually have a metric system keeping track of mail-in repairs. So when you mail something in, I actually keep track of that separately in my finances than I do laptops that were just sent in for regular repairs. So if you send something in for a screen repair and you mailed it in, it's not just going to be in QuickBooks as screen repair. It's going to be under a separate income account called mail-in screen repair, which allows me to actually track how much I made off of that alone. Now again, as I said, I believe in metrics. I don't believe in making decisions based on how I feel. I may get an idea to do something based on how I feel, but then I actually go ahead and look at the metrics to see if there's any sense in what I'm doing. And sometimes there may not be sense when I actually complete the idea at the end, but in the beginning there always has to be some type of sensible reason as to why I do something in order for me to actually do it. So I'm going to go here through my QuickBooks, and again, it was only around April or May of this year that I even started keeping track of mail-in revenue separate from regular revenue. And if I look at that, this year alone, mail-in services income is over $30,000. And that's like for a couple of months, over $30,000. And most of these people found the business off YouTube. Google Analytics says that they found the business off YouTube. When I email or call these people, they found the business off YouTube. So for all the bitching that I occasionally do, saying, you know, screw you for complaining about the camera being blurry, screw you for bitching that I haven't done an LVDS repair video when you ask me for it once a day for the last year, because it's a free channel and it's free content that I give away, I also do realize that while I'm giving away free content and not charging you for it, that I have made a substantial amount of money off of the content that I have been saying is free. And, you know, again, QuickBooks agrees with me. The metrics agree that this has worked. So my $300 or $200 experiment has paid for itself, I would say, at least 100, more than 100 times over. Like saying that buying this camera and spending the time to use it has paid for itself 100 times over is a very, very conservative assessment. So I thought to myself, well, here are the excuses as to why I can't have a better channel. I don't have a good enough camera. Even if I had a good enough camera, all the work I do is the really important stuff is in a microscope, so you're not going to be able to see it. And you can't see what's in the microscope, so I can't really do a video on that. And I'd make these excuses as to why I couldn't show you things I want to show you, but that's an excuse. Now, again, if this channel didn't make anything, that would be a very viable excuse, but the metrics tell me that the very, very minimal investment that I've made in this channel has made me back a lot of money. So, the amount of money that I've made on this channel pales, I mean pales in comparison to the $3,300 that I would spend on a recording setup. In fact, just off of the last 4 or 5 months of revenue, just off of 4 or 5 months of revenue, I could actually probably afford a crew of student filmers to come here with a camera that I buy, educate me on how to use it over a period of several days, and then even do the first couple of videos for me. Paid just off of the revenue that I've made, off of the $200 investment I made in this camera. So, in the beginning, at face value, yes, it is goddamn nuts that I spend this much money on something that I cannot directly get money back from. But again, from the investment point of view, from the point of view of somebody who looked at the metrics, who made an experiment, who started this experiment and tracked it, it actually does make a lot of sense to invest further into this field. But as somebody who actually tracked the experiment, started the experiment, and watched it unfold and unravel, and tried to find out where the customers were coming from, it makes complete sense to invest more in here. And the finances also tell me that it makes more sense to invest in this channel. It makes sense to invest where you make your money. If you're going to invest anywhere, it should be where you make your money. And you have to find out where you make your money before you know where to invest. So before you know where you make your money, you have to invest very small amounts of money into the idea to see if there's potential to make money. But once you find out that there's potential to make money, once I find out there's potential to make money, I'm going to remove every single excuse that sits between the top dog and myself one by one. And here, this little JVC piece of crap and this microscope I have that I can't fit a proper camera into, those are two excuses that I have for not improving the quality of the video that I show you, and for not covering other topics that I'd really want to cover, and that's an excuse that I see to get rid of. Another one for me. Let's go back about 5, 6, 7 years. I honestly don't remember exactly when I got that thing because it is early in the morning. Behind me, there is an ultrasonic cleaner. Let me show you this. I've talked about it many, many times. See that? That's a Crest CP500 HT. Let's see what the thing retails for right now. Okay. Crest CP500 HT. Okay, so this is $796 before shipping and without that tray that you need to use it. With the tray, you're looking at $927.20. And yeah, it's an expensive tool. Now, as a business, okay, it's a lot of money, but maybe we'll invest in it. But as a person, as a broke person, as I was 6 or 7 years ago, to buy that tool, to buy that thing that cost more than a month of my rent, when I was broke enough to live here, and you're going to see a picture come up here in a second. That is an insane investment. Like, just again, this is where I lived. And I spent almost $1,000 on a tool that vibrates water. I would tell them what I spent money on, and they would just look at me with their eyes like widened and their eyebrows up and this like kind of smile on their face, like they're kind of just saying, "You're a fucktard." When I would tell them this, they would look at me and go, "So you just spent $1,000 on a tool, on a box that vibrates water?" Yeah. And I bought that for a very good reason. I wanted to see if liquid damage repair on laptops was a niche that was worth going into. I felt that this entire business was going to be going to shit. I thought that you are not going to be able to make easy money off of reinstalls and tune-ups and all of that horse crap, and I did not want to be left behind as time went on. I never even really wanted to do that crap in the first place, but the point is I didn't want to be stuck where I was. I wanted to try to move on to the next level, and I wanted to try to fill a niche so that as more people entered this business, I would still have a profitable business model and I would not be left behind. That's also something you should always be doing. You should always be looking to the future. You should always be looking to the next thing. Even if what you're doing right now works, it may not still be there a month from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, but you will still be here 1 month or 1 year or 3 years from now. So you need to always be looking to the next thing. But I digress. Back to the point. That machine was something that I would need if I were to do liquid damage repairs to have a higher success rate. Now, did I go out and spend $1,000 when my apartment, again, looked like this? No, I did not say, let me just spend $1,000 to figure out if this is successful. Fuck no. I went out there with the tools that I had, and I wanted to see if people were willing to pay for liquid damage repair. Do people spill water on their laptops? I don't even know. I know now, but back then I didn't know if it was even a common problem. Would people be willing to pay somebody who works out of their apartment? Would they be willing to leave their machine with me? Would they be willing to pay money for it? Would the repairs last and work? And I did the best that I could with the tools that I had, which was a crappy soldering iron, alcohol on a toothbrush, and all that other shit. And I found out people are willing to pay for this. And after I had made $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 from these repair services, I thought, okay, now I've proven that the model works. Now I've proven that I can make money off of this. Let me get something to be able to do this better. So I didn't buy a jewelry cleaner. I didn't buy a cheap piece of shit. I went out there to buy the best sweeping mode ultrasonic cleaner that I could buy with the best fluid for it, which is Branson EC, that would fit the boards that I wanted to put in it. And again, people were looking at me like, you spent $1,000 on a box that vibrates water. Like, have you heard of alcohol on a toothbrush, you fucking idiot? And people were just staring at me funny. Some people just laughed outright. Some people were just kept it to themselves, but you could clearly tell from the look on their face they thought I was a fucktard. And as I said in that other video, that machine has made me over $100,000. That was last year that machine made me over $100,000. I cannot begin to even estimate, because I know that that's the low end of it, how much money that machine has made me, where I have not even had to touch a soldering iron. The machine did not work after the alcohol and the toothbrush, but did work after that machine. I cannot even begin to count how much money I have made off of that investment. Again, does that investment seem like a lot of money? Yes. When you're broke, spending $1,000 is a lot of money to spend on a little box that vibrates water. But when you look at the $1,000 investment and the fact that I have made that back 100 to 500 times fold, it really isn't a lot of money. And again, spending $300 on a camcorder as a luxury just so that I can tell people what I think seems like a silly investment. But again, $32,000 in months. And again, before I had this channel, that would have been $600. If I was lucky in a couple of months, $600. As I said, one mail-in repair every 6 to 12 weeks, and those repairs average $200 to $300. You see what I'm saying here? Another example, a rework station. Before I was able to before I bought that Hakko FR801 out there, I would try to use a standard iron to remove 0402 and 0603 packages. That was a pain in the ass. And again, this is part of the liquid damage repairs. I did not know if that was going to be profitable. I didn't know if I was going to have to do a lot of it. I did not jump in and spend $650 on a rework station and then spend extra money to buy nozzles for it. I did not do that. I tried to figure out how much I could get done with the cheap tool that I had, and I wanted to see again if this was something I would need, if this was an area worth investing in. And as I said, after I got a couple of $1,000s from using the cheap shit, I said this is a field where there is money coming in. This is a revenue stream that is worth investing into to make it easier, to heighten the success rate, and to make it more economical, more viable, more of a streamlined process for me. So when I saw that there was revenue coming in, I did not go out there and buy the $100 rework station that would have frustrated me in the future. I went out there and bought the Hakko FR801, which is probably the best hot air rework station that money can buy. Now, I still remember Ricky Began as one of my tech mentors just telling me about all the cheap fucks in the world, and he always used to brag about the money that he made because he was good at what he did and he was successful. He used to brag about how he would get $600 a day to work at all these great places. And isn't it funny when there's somebody else or there's some competitor that says, I can do the job a little cheaper, and they show up and their cheap crap tool dies, and then you got to tell the studio owner, hey, I know you had a $3,000 session coming in at 6 o'clock, but you got to cancel them and tell them they actually can't come in all week because you spent $100 less on me instead of somebody else, and I brought a crappy tool. He had this little Hakko, I'm never going to forget the Hakko 808 desoldering iron, and he was bragging about how he could re-switch an entire console in a matter of a couple of days, and that thing would not clog once. And I remember sitting here with this fucking cheap piece of shit. Again, God bless Avatar Studios, they're an amazing place, but fuck these Zytronic or whatever cheap crap rework station that they had with this little desoldering pump. This thing clogged itself fucking 3 times an hour. I'd be desoldering to get the switch off, because these switches were soldered in with 6 or 8 or 10 legs. There'd be 24 switches per channel. There'd be 72 channels per console. You get the idea. It's a lot of desoldering. And every 9 legs, the fucking thing would just... It would clog, and it was frustrating. And he was talking to me about how for $220 I can buy a tool that won't get clogged once over the course of an entire console. And these are the concepts that really got hammered into my head at a young age, and I think about them now. If I'm going to go invest in something, I'm not going to invest in something where I have to replace it. I'm not going to buy a cheap ultrasonic cleaner than a better one. I am not going to say, okay, my channel is making me money, let me go from the $300 camcorder to the $500 one. I'm going to buy something that I never have to replace again. If I'm going to buy a hot air rework station, I'm not going to buy a cheap one right now. I'm going to live with the crappy soldering iron I have now and make as much as I can from it, and then when the money is there, I'm going to spend 6 or 7 on the good one. And let me show you why I got the good one. As with any tool that is mechanical in nature or any tool that heats, anything like this, you're going to see wear and tear, and they're going to stop working. I've had this thing for, I don't remember exactly, maybe 5 or 6 years. Look at it. Look at this. This is the original nozzle. This has never been replaced. This is the original nozzle. This has been dropped at least 10 times, never broke. This thing here has almost boiled itself off from idiocy, where I've had the heat on 9, I go to the bathroom and I still have the airflow set on 3, where the heating element itself is just building up heat and turning into molten lava in front of me, and it still works. You see, the importance of this is that in 5 or 6 years, it has never stopped working. The only time it ever gave me trouble was for about 1 hour, and it was for a customer that actually wound up not wanting to pay for their repair, so I didn't really give a shit anyway. This thing over 5 or 6 years has never interrupted the process of my revenue stream. It has never caused me to find an alternate method to remove the bezel from a MacBook Air. It has never caused me to have to look for an alternate method to solder a QFN package onto a motherboard or a different way to replace a resistor. This always works. It has never interrupted my revenue stream. And I talk to people who've had to order heating elements for their cheap garbage IOE piece of shit, and the time it takes for it to ship is maybe 3 to 5 days. The amount of customers that I have in 3 to 5 days that will not wait for a repair, even one of those repairs, one of them, will pay for the difference between the $200 shit on Amazon and the $500 to $600 that this thing goes for. One job, much less 5 or 10, not to mention the inconvenience of having to fix broken components that belong to you. There is a big difference between fixing other people's crap and fixing the tools that you have to use to fix other people's crap. The latter is much, much more frustrating and much, much more annoying. And again, this is lots of money. This cost of almost a month of rent at the time that I lived in that dog shit apartment that I just showed you. So people would look at me and say, you spend $700 on something that shoots out warm air. You're a moron. And they wouldn't always say you're a moron. The people who knew me really well, who know the way I talk and that I'm not going to get offended at it, would just look at me and say, you are a moron. But again, 6 years later, it still works. It has never let me down. It has never interrupted me in the process of making money. And when I've wanted to use it for new things, when I've wanted to use it to lift larger packages, like the package, let's say, that controls CPU voltage on an 820-3115 or 2936, it simply works and it lifts the package. You cannot do that with a cheap pile of dog shit. It will fuck with you, it will annoy you, and it will cause you pain. This has never interrupted my ability to make money. That is what makes this valuable. So, now I also talked about value, and I want to explain that a little more. Another area of my business where I've invested incredibly are in the staff. Now, I'm not going to say that I pay people enough that they're riding around in Mercedes, you know, and living in high-rise apartments in the middle of Manhattan, because that's just not true. But the fact of the matter is that at this moment, for each given job title, if you were to look at a similar business in this geographical area, and you were to look at what they pay for that same position, it is, in many cases, between 30 to 50% less than what I pay for the same job. And I want to talk about that a little. In the beginning, I was doing everything by myself. I had no staff at all. Then I decided to see if getting more business and having more staff would make more sense than having less business with less staff. And now, I didn't make a huge investment at the time. I had an assistant that made maybe 10 or 12 bucks an hour, and then maybe I had two assistants that made like $9 or $11 an hour, whatever it is. And I noticed this is worthwhile. The experiments, again, the low-cost experiment showed me that this is worthwhile. Now it's time to invest. Now, the problem is that you can throw more money at the same person and get the exact same level of work. People have a limit as to what they are going to be able to do. And it doesn't matter if you give them $10 an hour or $100 an hour. If you give somebody whose limit is here this much money, they are still only going to do this much worth of work. So what I did is I sought out to hire other people. The thing is, I don't have a large network of friends or people that I say what's up to or go out to bars every night to drink with on a regular basis. But I do keep track of people who are in my business. I do keep track of all the people that I meet. I do try to have some kind of meaningful conversation, even on a small level, with the people that I meet, and I look to get to know them. And I did get to know a couple of people, and I did ask if they wanted to work here. Now the thing is, they were going to cost more money than the people that I had. But once I realized that this is a working business model, having 3 or 4 people working, doing this much work, works better than this many people doing this much work, I decided that this is a worthwhile model and it was worth investing in. So as time went on, I wound up phasing out those people, and some of them quit or just phased themselves out as they noticed the environment changing, and these new people started working here. And again, when I speak with people in the industry and we discuss things like people that we feel comfortable discussing finances, and I discuss what I pay my staff and they discuss what they pay their staff, I get funny looks almost every time. Almost every time. I've had crazy reactions. I don't make that much and I own my business, and you're paying somebody more than that. I pay this person like half of what you pay for that. You're insane. And again, I'm not paying people fuck tons of money. That's why this truly strikes me as odd. Again, the employees I have, you know, they're well off for themselves. They feed themselves, they clothe themselves, they buy themselves nice things. But again, they're not going to go living in the Epic on 31st Street and 6th Avenue. They're not, going on vacations around the world or anything like that. It's just a salary. Like that's what it is. It's a livable wage, which apparently is a shock and a surprise to all these other people that do not pay living wages. And the point is here, yes, that is quite a bit of money. When I look at what I spend on payroll and what other companies spend on payroll, it's a lot more. But the thing is, you have to look at the income. Again, if I look at the income in QuickBooks, I'll see that during the time that I was doing all the work and that I had people working for me that were on this level, I made this much money. But then I started paying people that were on, like, let's say this level, and I made this much money. So yes, what I pay people right now is a lot. Let's say before I paid people this much, and now I pay people this much. But before, profit, I was making this much, and now profit, I'm making this much. Again, I look at the metrics. You can literally look at the graph, and you can see people working here who are not intelligent. people working here who don't use their brain, people working here who use their brain. And you can just look at the graph and you get the idea that working around intelligent people and giving intelligent people the freedom to learn, the freedom to fuck up, the freedom to create the workplace as they want it. Again, this is not my office. This is somebody else's, who is free to rearrange, throw shit out, toss whatever he needs in here and out of here so that he can do his job. When you give people the freedom to do whatever they need to do their job, and they're intelligent, you'll see that profit does this. There are so many times over the course of a day where one stupid, silly, fucked up, asinine decision, just one tiny little thing, makes the difference between me making $800 and me making $0. So this person making that one decision once in the course of a day has just paid their salary for the entire week. And you're sitting here telling me that I pay them too much? Are you kidding me? You're not going to have an $800 decision made. You're not going to get somebody to realize that they should probably recycle this computer here because they're going to throw it out anyway. You're not going to have a smart person answer the phone and get a contract from a company that has 30 machines to send you per week to fix when you have the person on the phone that makes $2 or $4 or $5 an hour less. And if you think that's worth it, again, that's on you. I look for value. I don't look for bargain. I look for value, meaning what did I spend, what did I get? If I spend this and I get this, this is not a lot to me. If I spend this and I get this, I'm pissed off. That's just how it works. People are always willing to pay a good rate for a good value, but they're not willing to pay shit to get nothing. And again, with employees, you really do get what you pay for in many cases, and I would much rather have a staff of people that allow me to make more money than have a staff of people where I make slightly less. My business model is this. I invest into infrastructure and then I make more money. Some people have the idea that if I want to increase profit, if I want to make more money, I take what I make, I lower the expenses, and now I have more profit. And that model to me doesn't work. I don't want to align myself with businesses that have that model. I don't want to do work for businesses with that model. I don't want to work with people who have that model. I don't want that model. The model that I want is the model where I spend this much more on infrastructure and I make this much more money. And that's the model that you want. Those are the clients that you want. Those are the people that you want to partner with and work with. The people that want to spend more, but they know that they're getting a much better value. I could go on all day showing you all the small things that I've invested in that were good for me. But the point is that when you invest in yourself, the first thing that you should do is look to see if it's a worthwhile investment. So test it. Do a test run with something else. Let's say it's a type of repair that you don't know how to do. Let's say you work on PC laptops, but you don't work on Macs. Just start offering the service and outsource it to somebody who knows how to do it. Now, if you get no business, you know, I am not going to sit here learning how to work on this. But if you get 30 machines coming in a week, now you know it's worth the investment. Now, once you know it's worth the investment, then it's worth putting together $2,000 to $10,000 of inventory so you always have these parts in stock. Then you know that it's worth putting 10 or 20 hours of time in to learn how to do all the different repairs on all the different devices. So the first step is to test whether or not your idea is a good one as cheaply as possible. Then once you know that it is a good idea, then you should invest to do it properly. Anything worth doing is worth doing properly. I have now decided that this channel is worth my proper and serious attention, and I am going to treat it accordingly. I have said that component level repair and the ability to do micro soldering on something other than, you know, a 40-year-old Neve console module is important to me. So I no longer have just a $50 regular soldering iron on my desk. Again, I have all these tools that I use for surface mount rework, and also made a lot of mistakes. And that's one of the benefits of my coworker's idea, where I said, again, he is more practical, he is more level-headed, he is more sensible, for lack of a better way to say it, than I am, is because I've also come up with ideas where I tested them and they failed. For example, in 2010 or 2009, I got a hold of a bunch of screens that were very, very rare for about $70 to $80. And I said, gee, wouldn't it be a great idea to try to sell these since I'm not using them fast enough? And these things all sold for like $250 a piece within one day. So within one day, I sold an entire box of screens for about 3 times what I paid for it with almost no hassle. Now, once that idea worked on a small scale, I decided to try it on a big scale. What if I sold all these other products in addition? And that's Rossmann Supply. We here really don't like to talk about Rossmann Supply very much. I don't like remembering it very much. I'm not going to get into how it failed, but yeah, not a good idea. Or I thought, hey, opening one store in a new location worked. Let me try opening a store in Brooklyn, because that's a new location that has a ton of people, and a lot of the people who are coming to this store keep telling me, I wish you had a location in Brooklyn. I would have went. I was close to going to somewhere else where they were going to charge me more money. So I opened a location in Brooklyn, and I had one customer a day, maybe one paying customer every 4 to 5 days, and I learned my lesson there. Again, I've also had a lot of ideas that fail. As I said, when I see an idea that has the potential to work, or I see money on the other side, or I see fulfillment, or a feeling of satisfaction on the other side, I will gladly climb a mountain to get there if all I have to climb the mountain are 2 flathead screwdrivers. And that is not a very sensible and practical way to go about things. And what happens is sometimes the idea will actually make sense on paper, and you'll do a small test run of an idea and it will work, and then you go out and try to practice the idea on a larger scale in the real world, and when you go out to practice that idea in the real world, it will completely fucking fail. And I don't hide these failures from the people that I employ. I don't hide these failures from the people that know me. And above all, I don't hide those failures from myself, because it is important to me that I remember how I failed so that I don't make those same mistakes again. But at the same time, I still feel, and this is an opinionated matter, I still feel that it's worthwhile to invest your time, your money, your effort into things that are going to allow you to grow and go to the next level, even if they don't seem sensible. Remove as many excuses from the process that you can. I don't have the money to do this. I don't have the time to do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't know where I'm going to find somebody who's going to let me experiment on this or that. Go out there and try to get rid of as many excuses as you can, and you will find that you don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the richest, you don't have to be the most educated, and success will find you if you put the investment in. Again, a lot of the point of these motherboard repair videos that I'm doing, a large point of them, and I try to mention this in the beginning, the middle, and the end of each one, is that there is no rocket science going on here. I am using my brain on a basic level to follow little lines and figure out and troubleshoot issues. I am not a rocket scientist. I am not an electronics engineer. I am not a computer engineer. I am not a college graduate. I am barely a high school graduate, and I am not that smart. I am not the most intelligent guy out there, and I did not start out with a lot of money, but I was able to get somewhere through just investing in myself and using 100% of whatever little bit of a brain God saw fit to give me as often as I can, and I feel it's important to convey to you that you do the same.